Day after our letter arrived at Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, the superintendent resigned.
They were not keeping accurate budget records. They had COVID money that they had been putting positions in.
100 full-time positions?
With temporary money, and they never got rid of them. Didn't know how much money they had. That continued to then snowball into the problem that they face today.
Hello, Dave Boliek, North Carolina State Auditor here. Welcome to the podcast, Let's Add It Up with Auditor Dave Boliek, a podcast produced here at the Office of State Auditor to let you, the citizens, know about what we do at the Office of State Auditor. Today, we have with us a really special guest, and that is Charles Dingee, who is Deputy State Auditor. He heads our Rapid Response Division here at the Office of State Auditor. So, Charles, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be on, Dave. Appreciate it.
We're glad to have you. Tell everyone a little about yourself, who you are, and how you came about becoming a member of the team here at the Office of State Auditor.
Yeah. So professionally, I came from a compliance background. So I used to work in banking, did a little bit of work with some IoT companies. And, for me, coming to the state auditor's office was something that you had actually contacted me about. It was one of those things that after the election, you had won.
Yeah.
And,
so let's pause there. You ran for the office also. You and I ran at the same time.
We ran against each other. So we ran against each other in the primary. And after the primary, hey, we all come together and we got to push for the same goal. And after that, you had won the election. And I remember getting the phone call from you. You're like, hey, you want to come over here and help me find out where all the money's going? And I was like, absolutely, let's go. And remember coming here starting January, a little bit more than a year ago now. And first day, just coming in going, all right, let's get to work.
Now, you've got a wife?
Yes.
And how many children?
2 right now.
2 children, 2 girls.
2 little girls, Molly and Annie.
Great. So at the Office of State Auditor, you head up and you're in charge of what we have called our Rapid Response Division, which is a new division here at the State Auditor's Office. What is that?
Sure. So rapid response is essentially the idea of taking audits and putting them into a usable format, what people expect an audit to be. Just as well as I do, when people say the word audit, and what the results of it are usually 2 different things. For the average person, they think an audit is going to give them that, granular breakdown of where exactly the money went, and that's really not always the case. So the idea behind rapid response is it's a division within the auditor's office that can quickly respond to something and produce a report that is easily to be understood by the average person.
Yeah, and it also, the hope is we get it out in a timely fashion, quicker than maybe a full-fledged audit that looks at a program from top to bottom. We can zero in on relevant things that can help decision makers at a local level or even at the state level make some decisions quickly with respect to potential problem areas. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. There's a theory out there that we have now implemented into reality, and that's a training called quick response auditing that is out there, and it's been out there as a theory for a few decades now. Not a lot of states really have implemented it, though, because, frankly, it's hard to do something different, right?
Right.
But we've been up for the challenge, and we've been successfully doing that and providing our reports in a timely manner so then people can go ahead and make decisions on things now instead of 3 or 4 years after it happened.
Yeah, and we're not afraid to try stuff new here.
Every day.
Yeah. So what's your team look like?
So we've got about 14 people right now in total in the team. So we've got 3 different teams as well. One of the things that we learned kind of early on here was a lot of the money in the state flows through grants. And that is an area that doesn't really have a ton of oversight and is also very complicated. So we've created a specific team in the Rapid Response Unit just focused on grants.
So when you say grants, what do you mean by that? Like, so I know that may sound simplistic, but for folks tuning in.
So grants are funds that are provided by the government, usually from a state entity or it could be from a federal entity that you don't have to pay back. So they're provided, let's say, maybe for providing low-income housing, or it could be a grant for providing food assistance programs. And this is money that doesn't have to get paid back, but it has rules associated with it. It's also very complicated usually. So specifically early on, we realized we want a group of people that can do and understand grants backwards and forwards to be able to provide that transparency quickly anytime we see things that pop up with grants.
So hold that thought, and we're going to come back to it. We're going to take a quick break for a message about our tip line here at the Office of North Carolina State Auditor. So we'll be right back after this break to give you some information about the tip line and how you can let us know what you think is important across the state of North Carolina.
We do everything we can here at the Office of the State Auditor to combat waste, fraud, and abuse in state government, but we can't do it alone. We need people like you to give us tips and information as to where the problems are at. Tips have helped us launch important investigations and allow us to push for accountability and positive change in government. If you have information about waste, fraud, or abuse, please contact our confidential tip line at 1-800-730-8477 or email us at tipline@ncauditor.gov.
Protect your tax dollars by using the Office of State Auditor's tip line today. So we're back with Deputy State Auditor Charles Dingee, who heads up the Rapid Response Division here at the Office of State Auditor. Charles, when we left off, we were talking about grants and digging down into the granular nature of grants. What is that looking like moving forward in the Rapid Response Division?
Yeah, so we've now got it fully staffed out, and one of the things that we've learned about grants is it isn't just a single entity. And what I mean by that is, let's say the state of North Carolina gives out a grant, and they might give it out via a state agency. That agency's grant might go to another entity, a nonprofit, who then might pass those funds on to another nonprofit. And really being able to take all of that complicated processes and breaking it down so anybody can understand it in one page, basically.
And the goal is to track those dollars all the way to where they're actually expended.
Exactly. To really see and validate, are taxpayers getting what they expect out of these grants that are provided? An example might be if an entity, let's say they receive $1 million to provide low-income housing, right? Something we need more of to be able to, provide housing for individuals. Average person is going to think, well, $1 million of that is going to go towards housing, right? That's, I think, a fair assumption.
That'd be my expectation.
And that's what you would think. But then you start to delve into it. And grants often have administrative costs included in that. So
the dreaded administrative costs. Charles.
Yes. And,
tell us about that.
That $1 million, all 1 million of it won't actually go towards building housing. They've got maybe 10 to 15, even sometimes 20% of administrative costs. That's part of that $1 million.
Now you've been at this a little over a year, but give us some examples of the administrative costs. What do you mean by that? What would comprise administrative costs?
Yeah, so those are individuals that might work at that nonprofit that receive funds in association with giving out the money. So the state would go ahead, provide these funds to a nonprofit organization or another entity, and they take a percentage of that as part of their cut for doling out the remainder of those funds.
Now, I know you've been working on some stuff. This might also include marketing, for example.
It could. Well, marketing may not be administrative costs. That's just marketing.
That'd be in addition
to the 15 to 20% of the administrative costs. So, and that's something we're trying to really break down in some of these grants is saying, look, they gave $1 million out. $200,000 right off the top goes to administrative costs. Then you've got marketing, attorney's fees, you might have consulting fees, and out of that $1 million, there might only be $300,000 that truly gets to the end goal of that grant. in providing housing. And people don't really know that. And it's often very complicated to parse through that, and that's what we're doing.
So this is a new team that you've put together within Rapid Response, so the people of North Carolina can expect results from that in the coming months. Is that fair to say?
That is very fair to say.
Now, one of the other things that I know that you've been working on is bonds.
Yes.
And I go across the state, and I will oftentimes, if I'm talking to a group, say, show of hands of how many people know where the money that they saw on the ballot box, right? Maybe they went to the ballot and then they went and voted, and there was a bond referendum on the ballot, and let's say it was passed by the local community, and I will say, show of hands of how many people know where that money was spent. And maybe one person who happens to be a county commissioner, for example, is in the room and knows, but the general public has no idea. Well, tell us about the effort at the State Auditor's Office with respect to transparency and accountability on bond spending.
Yeah, so early on, we started to look at, is there anybody watching this? Like, who's keeping track of all the bonds that are being spent in the state? And the Treasurer's Office does a fantastic job of making sure that bonds are paid. They want to make sure we maintain our high credit rating, and that's what they do. They make sure that these entities are paying on the bonds.
Yeah, that you can rely. If you're an investor and you purchase a municipal or tax-free state bond for the state of North Carolina, we pay.
Exactly. We do a great job of that. But then we started to ask, okay, but who's tracking what it's actually spent on? And it was crickets across the board. So we decided, well, we'll track it then. So we've been contacting municipalities all across the state and gathering information on every single penny that they've spent on bonds. And we have not released all the information. We haven't really released any of it yet, but we are, in the coming months, will be in a new bond dashboard.
And that's been a big project that we've been putting. We put a lot of hours into it. So again, it's one of those things where I talk about around the state of a lot of the work that we've done here. This has been a rebuild process. And for you, it's been a total build process because Rapid Response didn't even exist.
No, none of it did. And, it's not just rebuilding, or building kind of the groups that we have, but it's also bringing in the technologies and systems that we need to be able to do what we want to do.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, technology that we brought into the auditor's office.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of like what you saw when we came in here, the first few days, there was a data analytics group here in the office that really was just unknown to a lot of folks. And that was kind of like that crown jewel almost, that
diamond in the rough.
Yeah, diamond in the rough that was just completely unutilized, and continued to add more positions and investing in that. I know that right now we've got AI components here in our office that are putting us at the forefront of AI utilization in the country. We use Databricks as one of the systems that we have that allows us to take that bond data where you might get thousands of pages of documentation for one municipality's bond, sort that through the AI, validate it, to be able to see and break out exactly what the money is being spent on at a granular level. And you can do it in minutes instead of what used to take months to go through.
And so this is the product that your team has been working on so that we can roll this out across the state to let the public know exactly how the bond money is being spent.
Exactly.
And in the old days, which I like to say was about 10 months ago, you'd had to print all those thousands of pages out and get out a box of highlighters.
Exactly.
And go through it. And by the way, there are boxes of highlighters in the supply room.
We use them.
We use them, but this new technology is going to allow us to roll that out. Now, talk about Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools. That is for folks that live in the Triad area. A lot of folks know about the work that the State Auditor's Office has done, and your team led the effort to do a report on the budget shortfall and the causes of that budget shortfall in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. Talk about that and the work that your team did, because that was one of the real first efforts that you sent your team out on.
Yeah, and that's a good example of exactly what rapid response is. It's something that was happening right now. We got involved, and within 3 months, we were able to complete a report that gave understanding not just to the people in Winston-Salem, Forsyth, but also to the stakeholders and the decision makers in that school district of what exactly was going on.
So what happened? Go through that process. What did that look like? We got, and I've talked about it. You and I have had a lot of conversations and worked together on this, but we got tips on the tip line. We got phone calls. You got phone calls. I got phone calls. Stakeholders, legislators, school board members, county commissioners, lots of people called and said, we got a problem. We'd love to see state auditor. So we get that call. We make the decision as a team. All right, we're going to go and we're going to engage. Walk us through what that looks like.
Yeah. So at that point, once we've decided this is what we're going to do, we reached out to Winston-Salem schools, said, hey, this is the information we're going to need. We're going to need access to your systems of record. We're going to need documentation. And because we had already kind of made some of those advancements in our data analytics group, we were able to take their information and synthesize it through in a matter of weeks.
Now, before you got the data, tell the folks what we sent a letter. Mm-hmm. We sent a letter, and what did the letter say?
That we're coming.
Right. What happened after you sent the letter? Now, tell people you talked to the superintendent too on the phone.
Yep, I called the superintendent.
You had a conversation with the superintendent.
I did. She was not very happy.
But what happened? Yeah, and what happened?
And shortly after that, she announced her resignation. It was the day after.
Yeah, day after our letter arrived at Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, the superintendent resigned.
Yeah, and that, I think that's telling. And, that really showed in our report. What occurred there was they had additional money they had COVID money that they had been putting positions in, full-time positions.
100 full-time positions?
That with temporary money, and they never got rid of them. They were not keeping accurate budget records. Doing the bare basics of budget reconciliation. And what that means is every month you line up, here's how much money came in, and here's how much money I spent. They weren't doing it. They hadn't been doing it. Just these very core basic principles they weren't doing.
And bonuses, giving excessive bonuses without money in the bank.
And they didn't know how much money they had. Yeah. And that continued to then snowball into the problem that they face today. And, unfortunately, the people that got hurt the most by that and are going to continue to be hurt the most by that are those students and those parents in that community. They're the ones who are truly suffering because of those failures of leadership. But we were able to go in there, quickly come out with, hey, this is what has occurred. And subsequently, we released a follow-up report.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we've talked about here at the auditor's office. We don't want to just go in, do an audit, and leave. We want to continue to follow up. And so your team went in to follow up on the idea of, okay, we made these recommendations to do basic budget reconciliations to keep the general ledger straight. And we wanted to go in and see if those recommendations were being taken. And what did you find?
They weren't. So first, they weren't following the recommendations. They were trying to, but they weren't doing it correctly. And we also found there kind of the missing kind of key of what we had been looking for before, that missing puzzle piece. And that was they were keeping expenditures off the books.
More than $15 million worth of
just around $15 million. Yep. What that did was that 40-something million that they had, that $15 million was in there, but it wasn't clear how that was there. And instead of them putting those expenditures in their system of record, they just kept it in a filing cabinet. It's mind-blowing to think of, and it's really a hard concept to even just wrap your mind around that that's what you were doing. But it's that basic. They would take an invoice that somebody sent them and just put it to the side.
And not book the liability
anywhere
on the books. And then ultimately log those liabilities in the next fiscal year.
Yes.
Which in large part masked part of the real budgetary problems.
Absolutely. And but that basic budgetary control of not logging those invoices into your system of record, that is a basic concept that they were failing to do.
And so
it's
now the
something.
troops are rallying, and they're having to make some hard decisions to cut positions, to be more austere in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County school system, to right the ship. And
They are. They're working on it for sure. I think they've got some ways to go, but I think they've got the right people in places now to do that, and ultimately time will tell. The big thing is we'll be back. Like we're not leaving Winston-Salem. We will be back there again to see and follow up to make sure they are doing what they're supposed to do.
yeah, so bonds are coming. We're working on grants. Any other areas of interest that you can tease our listeners with on areas? Well, talk about
Hurricane Helene is a big topic. That was another early report that we did. That was on the Swannanoa Comfort Station.
Yeah, more to come on Helene recovery and response and the expending of multiple hundreds of millions of dollars across Western North Carolina.
Yes, we've got a handful of reports that are kind of almost at the finish line related to not just the disaster itself and that immediate recovery, but also what they've been doing so far related to housing, rebuilding infrastructure. And people need to really see where is that money going and what's it truly being spent on. Is it actually getting to the people that need it, or is it getting bogged up along the way in administrative costs?
Well, Charles, you've left us with a lot to look forward to. So if you're watching, auditor.nc.gov is the website of the North Carolina Office of State Auditor. Go there, sign up to receive copies of all of our audits and our newsletter. Also, you'll get this podcast sent to you every time we produce it. Charles Dingee, state of North Carolina, I personally believe is fortunate and blessed to have you as a member of the State Auditor's Office. Thank you for the work that you're doing. I think we've let the folks know that there's a lot of work you're doing. We've done a lot of work on the front end to get our team ready to start giving meaning. We've done some meaningful work, but there's a lot more to come. Is that fair to say?
There is a lot more to come. And, we are primed and ready. And I think 2026, people are going to be very interested to see what comes out.
Well, thank you, Charles. And thank you for joining us today. Again, I am Dave Boliek, proud to be the 21st State Auditor of the state of North Carolina. And thank you for being with us at Let's Add It Up with Auditor Dave Boliek.